Well, hey guys, it's Snoo. Here we are again. This is the big one, a Waystone crafting video. Exactly how I approach crafting Waystones for anything and everything I'm doing in the Atlas, which is basically just breach farming, as well as the occasional Citadel, and of course, going from point A to point B, target farming simulacrum splinters. And so that is essentially three different types of maps I'm looking at. I break the Magic Find maps down by two, kind of the lesser quality and the higher quality, depending on the roles, depending on the tile set. I'm going to talk about a lot of that here in this video. I think this could prove to be a really valuable video for a lot of you, regardless of where you're at on the spectrum. If you're just like a complete noob and you just think maybe someday you'd like to approach the game in this way, or if you're kind of getting your feet wet into the whole breach farming, magic finding, rolling waystones, maybe you're having a hard time sustaining them, or if you're at the top end and maybe there's something I'm forgetting to do in this video, you can let me know in the comments section below. Or if there's something, some big epiphany you had after watching this, could prove to be useful for you. Basically, the TLDR is the timestamps themselves. So you can navigate through the timestamps. There's a 10-step process that I'm using. We're going to be going through those step by step. It is going to be a longer video. And I think it would be nice to include one really nice map as a showcase. At the end, a Steaming Springs, one of my favorite layouts, 118% increased quantity of items found, preloaded in the precursors. So this is essentially the fourth of 4 videos. Again, Citadels, Delirious maps, then precursor focus, and now the Waystones, rolling them with everything coming together, and you get maps like this. And you, on super rare occasion, get maps like this on the right hand side. This is the best map I've ever seen. When I opened it, I had to take a screenshot of it. 494% increased quantity of items found. This map started with 160% increased quantity of items found. 9 towers were connected to it. I threw in one of the best Waystones I had. It already had quantity. It had a huge rarity roll. It had increased number of rares in 2 separate places, I think, including the Paranoia anoint, as well as a raw roll. It even had generic precursors with increased chance for monsters to have an additional modifier. I mean, nothing short of a holy grail situation. I believe this map only spawned with 1 breach, but I remember going in there and just getting absolutely showered with loot. Like, the average rare drop 3 raw Exalt. The average. It was freaking nuts. Really fun. And this is kind of what we shoot for. I don't know. There's a lot of RNG involved in this whole thing, but you got to put in the work. And this is me putting in the work, and I want to show you guys how it's done, or how I'm doing it. And this is also going to serve a dual purpose, because in the future, near future, hopefully, I will be running a long-form breach farming currency earning strat where I'll be tracking the currency that I earn over a certain amount of time, over a certain number of maps. And of course, to do that properly, I need to have a real strong sense of how much it costs, the investment, to get the maps in the first place, or in this case, the Waystones. So I'm going to be tracking very rigidly the amount of currency I'm spending to get a certain X number of high-quality maps. So with that, this is the video. Hopefully you enjoy it. Let's get started. All right, let's real quickly get out of the way. The dump tab that I have right now, a little low on stock here, but these are the Waystones that I'm trying to hit. Okay, we got this round here, we got this round here, we got these here, and then at the end, these are the best maps or Waystones that I'm trying to hit every single time. So let's review what we're going for here. This is going to be bricked Waystones, essentially. Whatever is going on in the end, it turns all suffixes with the Val Orb. Sometimes it hits really, really high Waystone drop chance. You can probably guess, what am I using this for? It's going to be for Citadels. And I can pretty much run any single modifier on here now at this point. So these are the maps that get saved for that. Good chance of getting 3 or even 4 Crisis Fragments out of those Waystones. Up next, we have the Delirious maps, high Deliriousness. So this is shooting for very high Simulacrum count. I mean, typically on maps like these, I average around 50 Simulacrum splinters per map. If it's a tower, if it's a map I got to clear everything, doesn't really matter. We get a lot of these on account of this particular Atlas notable, which makes the Waystones already drop with a lot of Deliriousness in some cases. So these are a little bit predetermined. I will still roll these as if going for Magic Find, because they might just hit amazing rolls anyway. But in the end, most of these just end up being used as a generic point A to B maps on those blank slate maps. Up next, we have sort of low-tier Magic Find maps. These are the ones that didn't quite turn out as well as I hoped. In many cases, they were like not anointed, and they actually bricked into good prefixes. Or maybe there was just kind of half decent and ended up half decent. And I'll use these on breach maps that have kind of a low quant roll on the precursor, or maybe it's a terrible tile set or something. But over here are the Waystones that we're really gunning for. These are typically pre-planned, pre-anointed Paranoia, 45% increase number of rare monsters, so they're already starting off on the right foot. And then quite often they have Quant and Rarity. In some cases they have all the good rolls, like this one here has Quantity, Rarity, Hybrid roll. It has an individual Rarity roll. It has a number of rare monsters. And then it also has not the right implicits, because this is one that actually came preloaded as a Delirious map, go figure. But with these rolls in total, this is a very good map, so I went ahead and put it over here. If we keep looking, we'll find other ones like, yeah, like this one. Again, this is another one that happens to have good, a couple of Paranoia anoints anyway. So some of these occasionally will be bricks that just turn out fantastic, but usually not. Usually these are kind of predetermined, and it costs me a little bit to roll maps into this. All right, this is where the magic's going to happen. Here we're in the dump tab. I'm going to keep these things separated, and I'm going to be tracking exactly what happens here. And you guys will be along for the ride. I am going to make cuts in this, but it'll all make sense at the very end. We have a lot of materials, more materials than I should need to craft all of this stuff. And we'll start the 10-step process in a second, but just to make note of the currency investment, or the surplus to begin with, a total of 1,720 exalts roughly, and the breakdown is right here in terms of the raw currency. We'll be using all of these currencies at some point on most of the maps, and then we have potentially 3 different types of anoints, but usually I really just care about the Paranoia anoints. They're a little bit more expensive. And then there's 233 maps, or Waystones in this case, but they don't cost anything because I'm fully sustaining them. Now, some of you guys may find that hard to believe, how you fully sustaining nothing but tier 15s. There was a while that I was collecting tier 13s and tier 14s and then doing 3-to-1 recipes, trying to roll them first and 3-to-1 recipe if it didn't hit something, and that was a good way to begin sustaining. At this point, I'm dropping weight. I just got Waystone popping out of my ears. And so I'm able to be quite restrictive on how I'm doing this, even using chaos orbs in some cases on some of the maps, which you're going to see in a little bit. As for the breakdown for how much each individual Waystone costs, there's a little bit of a discrepancy to make here. I'm not going to count the Paranoia anoints for like Delirious maps that I run, because that doesn't really make any sense. I've already spawned with High Delirious since it can't even fit Paranoia, and I'm probably not gunning for a good Magic Find map in that case. But the maps that end up really well rolled, we're going to be tracking specifically Paranoia anoints and Chaos Orb that should average out pretty evenly. Those will be by far more expensive on average than the Delirious maps or the high Waystone drop chance, or even like the lesser tier Magic Find maps. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. We're going to be starting step 1. I'm going to identify Alch, Augment, and Regal, all uncorrupted maps in that order. So I got a lot of unidentified maps, a lot of Delirious maps. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to be treating these all the same for now. I really just want to pull unidentified maps to start, and then we're going to Alch first, then Augment, then Regal. Of course, I'm going to be using Doriani for this.
Time is of the essence.
And we'll just put them right back in here. Okay, every single map has been identified and put back in. Now, the next step is Alch, then Aug, then Regal. Now, a nice thing to do here is to make all the maps grayed out. I think it's actually a lot easier to see. You simply right-click the currency you want to use, and whatever is available can be clicked on. I can see the borders more easily when they're grayed out. Probably the same for you. So, I don't know, a nice little trick on the eyes, I guess. All right, that is all the Alchs. Next, we click Augment. Yep, okay, there's going to be some more of these. Okay, then we got Regal. So there's no way I'm not going to Regal. I mean, there'd be no reason to keep it magic. Of course, we're going to Regal. And then after this will come Exalt spamming, I believe. Okay, every single map has been crafted initially through step 1. And I've went ahead and put the currency back in because, of course, I'm going to be tracking how much I'm spending. Even for these cheaper currencies, it does matter. Next, I'm going to be pulling all the Exalted Orbs out, because we're going to be doing step 2. Step 2 is all the Delirious maps. Any map that is pre-rolled with Delirious, I'm just going to go ahead and spam. Now, this is not necessarily the smartest thing to do, depending on where you are at currently in your progression and sustain. you could say it might be best to just track the prefixes that you're slamming in. And for a while I did do that, but at this point, time is money more than, making sure I look at every single thing with a magnifying glass. And we're trying to maybe cut corners a little bit in terms of time. Might be wasting a few exalts. In some cases, just continuing to slam maps. But, I mean, if it's a Delirious map, I'm probably going to run it one way or another. Not in every single case. If it's a really low roll, not necessarily. But there we go. I mean, that's already done, I believe. Yeah, so that's step 2. It's finished. Next, let's do step 3. Exalt spam any rare, quant, or number of rares maps. You might include rare monsters have an additional modifier as well. I don't really look at that one seriously. I mean, it can't even proc on the Waystone thing. It was 25% more of 1. It's still 1. But, yeah, there's 3 rolls. Rarity, quant, and number of rares. They are very valuable. To do that, type something like this, rarity of items found. This will also pick up all the quant maps, by the way. And again, kind of wasting currency a little bit because these don't necessarily have the best rolls. I might hit prefixes first and I'm just wasting slams into suffixes, but trying to save time. Not going to worry too much about it. Okay, I've gone over all the rarity of items found maps. Next we'll do number of rare monsters. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of exalted orbs. Hopefully I have enough. Should have enough. Alright, I hit a lot closer than I realized. I have 1 exalted orb left over. I went ahead and did search for rare monsters that have 1 additional modifier. That looks like this at the bottom, you can see. And in some cases, like this one has quant rarity with that mod. And then, we got another one like that. We got one with additional number of rares with that modifier. This has a chance, a halfway decent chance of being good. Alright, this is where things get a little bit complicated. A step that many of you will probably want to skip, especially those of you still on the earlier progression side of things. I am now going to be chaos spamming some of these Waystones. I'm going to be pulling the ones that are primed for it off to the side to make sure I don't mess up in any major way. I'm going to show you how I'm doing this right now. This one will probably take a little bit of extra time on. Essentially, any map that has a very high roll, 1 single high roll, which means it still has 2 prefixes available to be chaosed out. Now, maps like this one, or Waystones like this one, have 2 kind of low-end rolls. The roll of rare monsters and the roll of rarity are both kind of low, and this is going to be more useful for kind of the low-end, projecting to be good for the low-end tier Magic Find map. Not really worth chaosing, because it only has 1 prefix that's good, and the rolls are just kind of bad on there. 32% increased number of rare monsters. It already has Delirious. I can't anoint that really nicely, so I'm going to pass on that one too. Now this is one, actually I'll put this over here. This is one that's already done. I mean, I'm just going to anoint this. It has a quant rarity roll, and it does have increased ailment threshold, which is fine for the build currently. So we're already kind of see 3 different buckets I'm going with here. These are to be anointed and corrupted with very high Paranoia anoints to be potentially one of the very good maps. This is just kind of mid-tier. I'm probably going to anoint this with rarity of items found, and then this one is going to be chaos. My cutoff currently is around, like, I guess the roll range, yeah, 76 to 100 or more rarity of items found by itself. I will go ahead and chaos that. Here is another great one that's already done. One's not good enough. Increased number of rares with quant and rarity. Okay, that'll be pretty good for a rare anoint. And a corruption could gift me a pure rarity roll, which would be really great. The quant rarity roll here is a little bit bad. Probably not worth chaos spamming. This is an obvious chaos spam. It's got a huge rarity roll. For me, personally, a rarity roll plus a hybrid quant rarity roll, it's basically good. Because I can just anoint increased number of rares on there and give it all 3 modifiers nicely. Alright, this is a hybrid roll, but the roll tier is decent enough. I think it's worth chaos spamming that one. Here we got another one of these. It's like rarity, and it has number of rares, but the rolls are kind of low, so that one's going to have to corrupt into something good. This one kind of barely passes the test. It doesn't have quant, but it's got a good rarity roll and a mid-tier number of rares. I will go ahead and anoint this one with Paranoia and hope that it corrupts hybrid quant into it, but You know, may or may not happen. It's still gonna, it barely passes the test as a higher tier map for me. Similar story with this one, but actually it's just so lopsided. I think I will go ahead and chaos that one. Wow. This actually has 3 good rolls. It has a double hybrid rare monster roll to get 72%. That's actually a pretty good map. All right, that took a hot second, but kind of embedded in this step before you actually start, you know, doing some, you know, really expensive stuff. You kind of need to pull apart some of the Waystones to figure out, you know, what you're probably going to do with them. These are all the Waystones that have like 2 low tier rolls that are good, that don't really justify going all the way with them. These are the Waystones that have 2 high tier rolls, or at least 1 very good roll and a low tier roll. It's basically just done, and it's going to be good to Paranoia Anoint with 45 up to 45% increase number of rare monsters, and then slam it with a Val Orb, unless it happens to already be rolled perfectly. Now, these 2 here are the only 2 perfect ones that I got in terms of like, so basically you can only have 3 prefixes, and all 3 prefixes are the best rolls. Not necessarily the best roll ranges, but I'm not going to corrupt these because there's almost nothing that can happen that would benefit through a corruption here. And then these are the ones I'm going to chaos spam. I feel like I got some pretty good RNG insofar as like I have a lot of Waystones to actually chaos spam. I'm not really sure if I'm going to have enough chaos orbs. We may have to adjust the numbers. But here we go. Let's get started. So this one has, I think this one actually has 2 rare monster rolls. And so I might get lucky and pull apart the increased number of monster packs, or just peel apart one of the rare monster rolls, in which case this is a brick. And yeah, that's a brick, so we're going to put that off to the side. This one has 1 additional modifier plus Quant and Rarity. And I told myself if it bricked either one of those, I'm done with it. I don't normally craft on ones that actually only have 1 available prefix. That's bad. Most of these will have like 1 really strong roll, and so there's 2 available prefixes to hit. This again is a double number of rare monster roll. 81% is very high, and so I'm just kind of looking at that number and seeing what happens. It still has 61, so I'll go ahead and hit that. Oh, I thought that hit Rarity for a second. Okay, yeah, that's a curious one. I'm gonna throw that one down here. This is a very good Waystone for not having much Rarity. 45% increased number of rare monsters found. This is good. All right, so this hit good enough to be one of the premium Waystones, I think. Pretty good there. No, okay, that's a brick. I don't want to be slamming these all day. I'm basically just looking for, it's either going to brick it off or it's going to gift me something great. What in the world? This is like the perfect prefix. This is 2 separate rolls of magic monsters and rare monsters. That's pretty crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that. Okay, we'll get that out of here. Now, you might prioritize pack size, maybe, or number of monster packs in general, but usually it's not going to be so wise. I don't really put much stock in those. It kind of sucks when you keep hitting suffixes, and this is why, you know, you may or may not want to do this. This is getting pretty painful. I could really just failing to hit suffixes, but I did finally hit a really good one here, and that is definitely a premium map now. Okay, just to recap what happened there, I had already Exalt-slammed all of those maps that I Chaos Orb prior, so they were all 6 modded. And we just chaosed the 6 modded 1 high roll. It could have been Quant Rarity Hybrid roll, it could have been a Pure Rarity Hybrid roll, it could have been an increased number of rare monsters roll, and maybe rare monsters have an additional modifier, until it either disappeared or gave me a second roll. Next up is a bonus step that I don't really have to do because I've kind of already graduated from that, and that is if you're running or you're picking up, you know, tier 13s or tier 14s, you know, you're going to look at what you have left here, and, you know, everything else on the over here is already failed the test, basically. Everything here is to keep. So if you still had tier 13s or tier 14s or whatever left over, you would then 3-to-1 these over in the Reforged bench. Yes, you could put like 3 tier 14 uncorrupted maps in here, and it will give you a tier 15, and then once again, you have the opportunity to kind of repeat steps 2 through 4 after you've done that. You know, I just realized I may have overestimated how many Chaos Orbs I would need for this. But anyway, let's move on to, well, I guess this is the real step number 5. The last one was kind of a bonus step. Now we're going to be anointing. Paranoia Anoint for these maps here that are all set, the best ones I have, or Guilt Anoint for these over here. No, sorry, not Guilt. Greed Anoint. Greed Anoint. Guilt is coming up in a second. Well, I may or may not have enough of these. We go ahead and right click this, it opens it up, and you can put 3 of these in here. And then this is a map that doesn't have Deliriousness on here. It's 53% increased number of rare monsters to 81% rarity. That is a quite fine map. It doesn't have Quant, but that's okay. And now we're just going to give it, I mean, this map is going to load in with a freaking ton of increased number of rare monsters and rarity already in there. So if I put this in a high Quant precursor map, that's going to drop a lot of loot in a breach. Same story here. By the way, if you accidentally misclick or something, you can still put 2 more on, but you can't put a 3rd one on. So it just keeps adding to them. And to that matter, if it already has some loaded, you know, this apparently has 2 modifiers on it already. So I can only get 1 more. It diminishes the value of it a little, depending on the rolls. But, you know, in some cases you have like rare monsters have a chance to have an additional modifier, which could be really, really nice. In this case, these aren't very good for what I'm trying to do, those other Delirious mods. This one already came with 1 instance of rarity of items found, so not terrible. Okay, this map happened to just be completely preloaded with everything, and that's kind of unfortunate because this definitely diminishes the value of this map, but there's nothing I can do about it. This one, however, is kind of nice. Rare monsters have an additional chance to, or have a chance to have additional modifier. That's actually very expensive. Okay, all of these maps are good. These are corrupt ready. We're not to that step yet, but we'll just go ahead and put these back here. Oh, I just realized I forgot these. Apparently this one's already maxed out. So it has a pure 50% Delirious roll, I guess, and then a couple of rarity rolls. That's unfortunate. So essentially, this is the best map that I have. I was able to get effectively 4 good prefix rolls on it. Okay, up next is Distilled Greed. This is just a little bit more cost-effective anoint. You know, it's kind of nice sometimes the Val Orb saves the day here, and you're kind of glad that you have something anointed on it. But I don't necessarily want to pay the whole Paranoia price. I will say, though, you know, Paranoia anoints are all the way down to like 3x a piece. They used to be like 5 or 6. So as the gap closes, it actually makes more sense to just go ahead and, over time, you know, as it continues to close, it'll make more and more sense to just use Paranoia anoint, nothing but that. I suspect that's probably what some of you would do, and I think that's a fine idea, even on Waystones like this. Okay, so these maps are now finished, ready to go. They will be corrupt ready, but first, step 6 is Guilt Anoint. That is pure pack size, so this focus will be on the Delirious maps. High-roll Delirious maps. These are the ones that probably rolled with a good Delirious roll already, so I have Delirious put in here. Obviously, these are set, but Magic Find takes priority over Simulacrum Splinter Farming. This isn't good enough. I'm not going to pay any attention to this low one, but if I see the number, if the number is at least 30% before I anoint it, I will go ahead and pull it out here. Obviously, 90% will. In many cases, I won't even be able to put a single anoint on here. But for now, 30% is my benchmark. I can basically stay self-sustained with that. 112% delirious. 125? 180? Jeez, man. We got some huge maps in here. Okay. So, you know, it's just a lot of this. Okay, we can actually get a little bit extra. Pack size is going to probably be the most sensical thing here. Again, most of these can't even put one on here, but it's a good idea to just throw these super cheap anoints in if you can. Really not that time consuming, as you can see. Okay, I don't know why I prepped so many guilds, but didn't really use hardly any. Alright, we are moving on to step number 7, which is corrupt all maps. That's going to be the good ones, the mediocre ones, and the delirious ones. Actually, I need to go back in and find the perfectly rolled maps. There were 2 of them. I should not corrupt those. And then even these ones over here, because they might brick into something amazing. especially if it goes like all suffix or all prefix. It could be for Citadel, or it could be for magic finding, or, you know, even tier 16s in some cases. It can be worth a little bit. Some of you might sell tier 16s. There's a very good chance that these are just going to get thrown in the trash. It's got way too much sustain. There's nothing to do with it. In the past, I have tried to just like throw them into dump tab for like, you know, 5 to 20 exalt or whatever, and you might get a couple to sell if you don't even bother looking at them. Not a terrible idea. I should have actually mentioned prior to this, there is one extra step if you are interested in. I should have not corrupted them first, but I am saving a few essence maps back for a potential future farm, so I think target farming essence might be a little bit fun, maybe a little quirky. Didn't get very many there. Usually I get a few more than that. But anyway, I am saving some essence map. If you're trying to save strongbox maps or essence maps, it just automatically spawns on the map. Can be kind of cool. In rare cases, this might just brick into a good magic find map. Definitely gonna hit these mediocre maps. And I think I'll slow down a little so you can kind of see what happens here when we corrupt them. There you go. Bricked into a Citadel map. Pretty obvious right there. I mean, that's just cut and dry. That is a Citadel map right there. 620% quant. Nothing happens. Pretty common outcome. Or no, sorry, that went down to tier 14, which is okay. And go up to tier 16, which is what that one did. And then this had the other result where it just added a modifier, suffix and or prefix, but didn't actually hit anything good. Probably the single best outcome that I'm looking for. Okay, something like this is very good. I'm glad this showed up. So some people are confused with like it bricking into pure prefix or pure suffix. It appears to keep, if it goes pure suffix, it keeps the suffixes it had and then just transforms the prefixes into more suffixes. Or the opposite, keeps the prefixes it had, transforms them in the suffixes into prefixes, in which case you have a very high chance of improving the map, and this absolutely did. It even rolled with an additional essence. This is a very, very good map now. And this is why corrupting can seem worth it. A little bit of a mixed bag. Yeah, it's kind of obvious that essentially nothing happening is kind of often. This went pure prefix, but didn't hit anything extra, I don't think. All the corrupting is done now. That is step 7. Step 8 is to keep the High-roll Delirious and 2 High-roll Rare Quant number maps. So basically just keep the maps that are worthy of keeping based on kind of what I talked about earlier for these. You are just going to have to be, you know, the keeper of your own maps. I can't tell you the exact formula I'm using for this, but hopefully you understand, have a pretty good idea. Certainly, if it just went to tier 14 or tier 16 in these cases, or nothing happened, I'm keeping it. It's considered a high tier map. If it bricked into something bad, going in the trash, or Citadel map, I'm only keeping these for... I do tend to try to sell these, maybe in some cases. I can kind of get rid of these 500% quant maps, but yeah, in most cases, you know, for a little bit of currency. So give me a minute. I will now make it nice and pretty, and we'll move on from there. All right, step 9 is going to be keep all tier 16 maps, or sell them, or do whatever you want with them. Because again, you know, this is not nearly as applicable late in the game or in the economy, but certainly for the first couple of weeks. I mean, you can sell a lot of tier 16 maps. So if I go in here and I just type C16, it's gonna be a lot of maps, and you may want to do something with these. They are good, obviously, for... It could be good for item level area 2 farming, better EXP, chance to get good bases. You probably want some good prefix mods on them anyway, but you know, you be the judge of that. It's a good step to consider. This would be a pretty decent map to save, I think, right here. And you can see, well, we kind of did. Look, this is a hybrid quant rarity roll and a big number of rares roll. I mean, it's at least good enough for the sort of semi-magic find tier map. So I just typed in rarity of items found, and kind of got to scroll over these manually to see if they're worth keeping. But there'd probably be a couple. There's usually a few in here that are good. Here we go. I knew I'd eventually find a really good one. Now, this is a very high roll. Rarity, pure rarity, and hybrid roll. Doesn't have increased number of rare monsters. I hate that it doesn't, but Can't deny that is a very nice Waystone that hit on the corruption there. Okay, I've now checked every single map. I am going to begin the process of just vendoring this stuff here on the left. Everything else in these columns fit one of the 4 categories of Waystones that I'm keeping. And we're very close to figuring out how much all of this cost. I suppose gold is worth something. Apparently I have over 100 million. I told myself when I had 100 million, I'd probably do a grand gamba for gold. What do you guys think? Think that'd be a good idea? Gold gamba? 100 million? How long would that take to anybody who's in the know? I haven't gambled anything this league. Or in the early access. Okay, the task is done. I have it nice and dirty here in a notepad document. A dividing line for the remaining currency and estimated value in X is listed all right here for the different bubblegum currency and distilled currencies. So we have 44 lower tier maps and 28 higher tier maps. Remember, that's going to be important in just a second. The total remaining value estimated in Exalts is 785 after 1720 to begin. Sum total used 935 Exalts. Makes for a very clean and easy calculation of roughly 13 Exalts per map. But that's across all maps, and I didn't treat all maps equally, so that doesn't really paint a proper picture of, spending how much currency for the lower tier versus how much for the higher tier. So I did go ahead and break that down with some extra math because I only used Chaos Orbs and Paranoia Anoints on the really high tier maps. Well, not exclusively, because some of the cheaper maps did brick upward into higher status, and some of the maps I spent more currency on bricked out into some kind of garbage or maybe a lesser tier map. I think that would be pretty much a wash, so I'm just going to kind of hold this math through. And so yeah, basically cross-referencing the Paranoia Anoints and Chaos Orb remaining values only being used on the 28 higher tier maps versus 44 lower tier maps that didn't use those things puts the estimation somewhere around 5 Exalts per map crafted here with all these, 233 maps in total. And then for the 28 higher tier maps, roughly 25 Exalts were invested through the Chaos Spam and the Paranoia Anoints as well. So that is a much more accurate picture of how much was invested. I was a little surprised to see 25 Exalts. It's a little higher than I expected. But, the economy is what it is. It's been pretty stable, I think, for some of those things. If anything, Paranoia Anoint's been getting cheaper. Yeah, those are the numbers, so that's what I'm going to use moving forward. Hopefully the economy doesn't go through the ringer even more so before we get some of these currency videos out. But okay, to cap things off, I'll show you one map. I believe this was the best map out of the 28 that I crafted. It bricked into pure prefix. I did have the anoint. It is a good quant rarity hybrid roll. It is a good flat rarity roll. It is a good number of rare monster rolls with the anoint. I mean, that is a very, very well rolled map. Definitely worthy of 118% quant steaming springs layout, I would say. So let's see how it goes. If you didn't see my last video, yes, my build is improved a bit, gotten a little bit faster, a little bit more like a Gemling Legionnaire, I would say. Oh yeah, I forgot to check if we procced the precursor. Survey says no, that did not. Okay, but both numbers near 200%. Rarity and Quant is going to produce a lot of loot, so that'd be quite all right. Yeah, Flicker Strike's going to come in handy with all these weird island setups I got to deal with. Can I go around? Yes. I got focused a little here, try to get all that value. Hey, where's the Divine Orb at? There should be a Divine Orb dropping. Come on. That's okay. It's not a terrible map. It actually has 2 breaches. Maybe more. Not 10, I don't think. I would see more already. If at first you don't succeed. So again, 25 Exalts invested into this map on average, and this is the best map out of the bunch. Am I getting 25 Exalts out of this? Or more? I'd say, predictably, yes. Pretty much so. There will definitely be over 25 raw Exalts. We'll count them at the end, assuming I don't die, but haven't in a while. Oh yeah, I hit level 97 a little bit ago. Greater Jewelers. Not a perfect Jewelers, though. Oh, jeez. Sending me backwards. Yeah, there we go. Well, I have full cleared the map. 2 breaches. Didn't get a divine. I would say two breaches of this right here. Actually unlucky to not get a single divine. Alright, this is the final result. It looks like 55 exalts, 8 chaos, 2 annuls. Well, there you go. Now I see where my RNG went. 46 splinters, 1 greater jewelers. You can definitely see that map had a lot of potential. Didn't pan out with a really big hit, but okay. That's why we do bigger sample size. We're actually trying to determine how much currency you can get from these. So expect that at a future date at some point. But for now, I will take these maps and put them in their corresponding spot, and I am good to go for a while. I might be over-sustaining a little too much now at this point, which would mean I'd need to get even more restrictive or maybe use fewer chaos orbs, that sort of thing, going in the future. But guys, that is it for this video. I hope it brought a lot of value to you guys. I know that if I was you know, further behind in my progression, and you know, I didn't really know the best way to approach this, or at least if I wanted to see an approach from somebody else who definitely had a little more time under their belt, I would have got a lot of value out of this video. So that's kind of the framework by which I create a video like this. I know it's kind of longer, but hopefully it's jam-packed full of value. And I definitely would like to hear from you guys if there's something in here you think I messed up with or didn't include, something I should have done or did that I shouldn't have done, that sort of thing. But anyway, that's going to be it from me for now. I think you know what kind of videos to expect in the future. We are done with the whole Atlas prep thing, unless I start looking into ritual and stuff too, which might be a thing. Well, I mean, I do have all of these essence maps. I'm probably going to collect these, dug at 100. I'll just like do this weird session where I just focus on essence. Anyway, that's down the road some. I'm out for now. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.